Michigan State has their new head man, and he's bringing some Western flavor with him to East Lansing, Michigan.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
When we look back at the changes within this cycle of head coaches moving around, this coaching carousel, it's going to start here in 2023 and move forward to 2024. We might look back at this one as the best head coaching hire, or at least one of the best head coaching hires in the country. Definitely one of the best in the Big Ten Conference, because Jonathan Smith was a highly sought after coach by a lot of these openings right now. Credit to Michigan State and their administration for jumping on him early, making a connection, and convincing him to leave his alma mater at Oregon State and head to the Midwest at Michigan State. He has never coached east of the Rocky Mountains. Let's take a look at the background of Jonathan Smith right now. He started kind of at that FBS lower level, played at Oregon State from 1998 to 2001. He grew up in Pasadena, California, but then he kind of hooked up with Chris Peterson, and I think that's where his coaching career really started to take off a little bit. You look at that 2012 to 2013 range, the quarterbacks coach at Boise State, they were doing some good things on the blue turf at that point. And then you look at the University of Washington, offensive coordinator for that 2016 team for the Huskies that made it to the college football playoff. He translated that success in Seattle into a head coaching job at his alma mater starting in 2018. Now, here's the deal about when he started at Oregon State. Gary Anderson left behind a mess. It's not the very first time that Gary Anderson has left behind a mess. As a Wisconsin Badger fan, I know all about that. Gary Anderson was 7-23 before Jonathan Smith got to town. So there was something to clean up. And when you have to rebuild at a place like Oregon State, it doesn't happen overnight. But after COVID, once we got to 2021, this thing really started to flip for Smith at OSU, because he's done really good his last 3 seasons. You look at it, a 7-6 season in 2021. Last year they won 10 games, and then this year an 8-4 regular season mark. He's done a really good job maximizing that talent, developing that talent, because when you're at a place like Oregon State and you've got a recruiting power within the state at Oregon, it's not easy to convince really good kids to come to your school, so you got to get a little bit of creative. You got to invest in the development of players. We've talked all about developmental programs, starting in last offseason with Matt Rule and Luke Fickell, and then we've kind of translated it into the season as well. Jonathan Smith is another one that really fits in there as a great developer of talent. Like when you look at recruiting, 11th in the Pac-12 in 2021, 8th in the Pac-12 in 2022, 10th in the Pac-12 in 2023. So it kind of tells a couple of different stories. It tells a story that maybe even when you're having success, it's still difficult to be able to recruit to a place like Oregon State. And then Jonathan Smith has done a really good job developing that talent that really fits into the system that he wants to build and that he wants to fit in. So when I look at this, and then I look at Jonathan Smith moving to the Big Ten, I'm going to start with this. I do not blame him for leaving his alma mater. You look at the situation at Oregon State. Look, it's sad. It's unfortunate that they kind of sit there without a conference right now. This is a program that has had some good years over the last 20, 30 years, right? It's been up and down, right? We know it's not definitely not one of the premier brands in the Pac-12, but so you don't blame him for leaving to a Power 2 job in the Big Ten Conference that's got some resources at Michigan State. And this is a program at Michigan State. Remember a couple of years ago, 2021, they won 11 games. Remember, this is a team that won a Big Ten championship and went to the college football playoff not too long ago. So there is some recent success that Jonathan Smith can bring back to East Lansing, Michigan. Now, it is going to be a lot more difficult, right, with the powers at the top in the Big Ten, the way they are, the way they're humming right now, and then you're bringing in Oregon, you're bringing in USC, you're kind of bringing some of these other West Coast powers in there as well. It's not going to be easy, But I believe Michigan State really fits in more to being that developmental program like you've seen over the years at a Wisconsin, like you've seen over the years at an Iowa. And the way Jonathan Smith really puts his teams together really fits into the historical Big Ten mold of how teams in this conference are successful. You're looking at hard-nosed teams. You're looking at a development of talent. You're looking at good defense. You're looking at good offensive line play. These are all things that translate into being successful in the Big Ten Conference. Some of the first things that Jonathan Smith he's going to have to do, he's got to look at that defense. Okay, because Oregon State in a conference that's probably been the best offensive conference in college football this year. They are 37th in the country in total defense this year. They're 17th in rushing defense this season. Even though Jonathan Smith is an offensive head coach, he's done a really good job building defenses at Oregon State. And then you look at the defenses for Michigan State. Holy crap, there's a lot to fix, right? This is probably, if you want to count this season as the Mel Tucker era, this is actually probably one of the better defenses that they've had, but still 12th in the Big Ten in scoring defense, 13th in the Big Ten in total defense, 12th in rushing and passing defense as well. And even when they had all that success back in 2021, this defense was still bad. That's got to be a top priority for Jonathan Smith. I got to bring in a defensive coordinator that's going to be really good, and I got to be able to build this defense. I got to turn this thing around, at least get to a respectable level at Michigan State, because that defense has really held the Spartans back. I'm very curious to see what's going to happen in the talent roster, in the talent flip, because that's always something nowadays with transfer portal, opting out, all that sort of things, all of these movements with player movement going on. That's always something that you've got to take a look at. What happens at quarterback for Michigan State? All right, and obviously it depends who the offensive coordinator is going to be, who he's going to build his coaching staff around. You got to think Jonathan Smith is going to maybe look to some coaches, whether they're coordinators or recruiting staff or position coaches. I think he's got to try to target some guys with maybe some Big Ten experience, target some guys that have a Midwestern footprint, a traditional Big Ten footprint a little bit, because he's got the West Coast box checked, right? He's been around that area for a long time. Of course, he's coaching the Pac-12 for a while, and with those 4 schools coming in, at least there's some camaraderie there where maybe that can possibly translate to what the Big Ten is going to be. But you got to figure something out at quarterback. Is he going to bring in a transfer? He brought in DJ Uiagalelei, turned out to be pretty good, these last couple of years. Caton Hauser, Sam Levitt, you got a couple of really young quarterbacks in there that didn't stand out too much this season for Michigan State. So he's got to figure that out as well. I don't know if this thing is going to flip immediately for Jonathan Smith at Michigan State. But you got to think with the way he's developed talent at Oregon State that eventually this thing is going to hit. And when I say hit, I don't mean that they're going to be in the Big Ten championship discussion, because I think Michigan State really fits in with the Wisconsins, with the Iowas, with what Nebraska wants to be, with those developmental programs where you should be aiming maybe for the 7-9 win mark every year and try to be more consistent on the field. But Spartan fans, I don't think this thing is going to automatically take a huge jump like it did under Mel Tucker, because I think what you found out under Mel Tucker is he just pushed way, way too far into the transfer portal. Yes, you can get a great talent like Kenneth Walker. You can shoot up to 11 wins, but you're going to dip back down to 5-7. It's going to be a roller coaster ride of wins and losses. I think at Michigan State, they want some more consistency. And I think Jonathan Smith is that type of guy that can bring some consistency, that can continue to develop talent, that you can get better on defense. I'm excited for this hire. I think this is a really good hire for the Michigan State Spartans. I want to hear what you guys think. Are you excited? Do you think Jonathan Smith is a great hire for Michigan State? Do you think he can deliver winning seasons and success in East Lansing? Leave your thoughts on all things Jonathan Smith being the next head coach of the Michigan State Spartans in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. We will see you in the next one.
thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.